Just got real.
I seem maybe like a nice person, but in game, I'm completely different. My name is Vincent Fortin, and my in-game name is Pamstu. My parents were like not sure of it and maybe not that much supportive, but my dad always just believed in me. Even to this day, he goes to every event I played and watched me a lot. Yeah, I do have a brother and he usually plays a lot of video games, and back in the days we always used to like compete against each other. Beating him when I was young was like such an achievement. Yeah, my mindset is always to win no matter what. I always just played sport, which kind of like led me to being very competitive. I played badminton a little bit, but I didn't play like in high level. I just played with my family and my cousins. I mean, Fortnite is a very competitive game. You have 100 players, so you need to like be on the top. And sports is a bit like the same, where you have to always beat a team. And that's what I always wanted in my life, to be a competitor. I used to compete against like team in my region, and now I compete in like the best player in Fortnite. So I feel like it's not the same level, but you can relate. It's very hard to have a good balance between life, school, and everything. But I really have a good schedule, which make it very easy. I just go to school, then when I come back, do a little bit of exercises. They say if I have something to do with school or just talking to my parents, then I play Fortnite. My favorite subject in school is math. And my playstyle is really fast, so I guess it can like relate with math, because in math you have like a certain times to do a certain problem, especially in school. So I feel like in Fortnite it's almost the same, because sometimes you have no times to think about what you need to do, and you need to think quick. Obviously, getting a mental reset after a game it's hard, but I do it with my teammate Fash. We just usually talk about what went wrong and just really going forwards about what we're gonna do in the next game, which makes it very easily. I usually also just get out of my PC just to think a little bit about other things in life. I think the loyalty between me and Fash is something very good, because I can always trust Fash and I always know that we're gonna stick together. Last chapter, we peaked 3rd place in one of the FNCS. I think this is only the beginning, and I don't think this is the peak of us. We are playing every single tournament that we can and making sure that every single mistake we fix before the qualifier. I think in a year or two, I'll be very more successful, I'm guessing, and I really want to just improve my game and just be at the top of level. I'm gonna place 1st place. I'm saying it, I'm ready to take it home.
This is the Global Championship.
The best players in the world all battling it out.
Insane matches already today.
These are the moments that make these players championship material.
One chance to make it happen, and they take it by force.
It is going to be absolutely insane.
Can you feel it? Because tension is in the air tonight as we have our last lobby before grand finals of the Major 3 FNCS. Series points is what's up for grabs tonight, and a bunch of teams need this badly. One of the teams that are in a good spot but needs to secure their slot is Peterbot and Larson. This duo has only had 2 weeks of play since they weren't a duo back in week 1, but now they're almost ready for the grand finals. Let's see them make it tonight. The duo of Mudhut Boy and Chris is also a team that could make it tonight, and if everything goes according to plan, they can call themselves grand finalists as well in a few hours. They gotta keep their head in the game though, because nothing's safe just yet. So can they keep calm? Lastly, we have Moo and Bacon. Currently outside the threshold, however, it is realistic for them to make an upset in the leaderboard tonight and rake in those last crucial series points in order to join the remaining teams in the grand finals of NA. All the NA teams know that the Major 3 Grand Finals matters more than ever if they want to get a spot in the upper bracket of the Global Championship. If they miss this chance tonight, then they only have one shot left in the Last Chance Major. So let's see who makes it to the Major 3 Grand Finals. This is the NA FNCS.
What's going on, Fortnite fam? It is fantastic to see all of you. Welcome back to the FNCS. Yesterday, EU took the stage, and there were some crazy games over there. But now in NA, here we are to pick up the pieces and try and make sense of the final week here before Grand Finals. Many duos are looking to just get a couple more series points to secure their spot in Grand Finals, and today's the day to make that happen. Now, before we get into the competition, of course, I got to remind you about Legends Landing. If maybe you're new to Fortnite, you've never checked it out before, hop in. The island code is right here on screen right now. There's box fights, there's build fights, and there's actually like a hall of legends where you can go back and see previous FNCS winners, and of course, a display for the active champions and so much more. Stop on by Legends Landing whenever you have a chance. You can also watch the FNCS, play a little, watch a little. It's super dope. Legends Landing, check it out. Now, of course, we have some analysts who will be helping us break down and dissect everything we see today. It's none other than the best Taco and Vivid who will be helping us make sense of what it is we're going to see. Friends, welcome to the show.
Appreciate it, Zeke. As always, can you feel it? The last week, the last ride, until Grand Finals, that is.
Yeah, of course. Listen, a couple of these teams tonight have to go ahead and make sure they get just a couple more series points to make sure we can see them in the Grand Finals. Can't wait to see how they do.
Well, Viv, I want to just jump right into it. Let's talk about that series point leaderboard. We talked about it over in EU, but now North America, what is going on? So we take a look. This is our top 10. Now, we've got some names you're used to seeing, right? Yamzone Rise, Acorn and Cold, Bucky Okus, Aegis Kanata, Pollo Sphinx. Names we've seen kind of for the last few weeks. let's talk about the duos on the bubble. The duos that are coming in today saying we have to have a good performance if we want to keep the FNCS stream alive. I'd like to turn attention here to 59th, Mud Hut Boy, who's fast, and then Chris. What do these guys need to place if they want to kind of find themselves in that top 50?
As far as Mud Hut Boy and Chris are concerned, it's going to be a 36 or higher placement that'll be able to secure them a grand finals qual here today. But you have to remember that this is a duo that has had a little bit of a shift since week 2. We saw them over in Mega City. Not the greatest week there either in week 2 finals because they finished at 44th. And keep in mind, they need 36th or better today. So let's hope that that switch in drop spots over to Shattered Slabs works out in their favor.
Yeah, and the thing about last week's 44th placement was that they were alive for 20 minutes, which is, very late into the game, a lot of the games, but they only managed to get 21 points over the course of 6 games last week while being uncontested. So we're going to have to see if they can flip the switch here whilst they are contested this week.
I love to see it. So that's a look at a duo just outside the bubble, right? Let's dive deeper. Let's take a look and jump from the 50 through 59th. All the way down from the 70th to the 79th place. Okay, 2 duos we want to highlight here. First, we've talked about a little bit, Moo and Bacon there at the top of your screen. If I understand correctly, these guys need about a 13th or higher if they want to make sure they can make it to Grand Finals.
Definitely no easy feat, especially to try and accomplish in a set lobby. But also keep in mind an interesting fact about Moo and Bacon is that if they do manage to secure their quals for Grands today, then both of them will have competed in every single major Grand so far with different duos the entire time.
Wow, yeah, that's crazy. But the crazy thing is that this duo, this major, this is their first weekly final that we're going to be seeing them in, as they just barely missed out on finals range last week. So hopefully they put a little bit more prep time into this week.
Absolutely. So once again, we come back to the leaderboard. We talked about that duo in the first place, right? 70th place. Let's look at the duo right below them. Swexy and Omizi there in 71st place. Okay, so we've looked at 36 or higher to be comfortable. 13th or higher, what do these guys need?
Well, this is an 8th or higher placement that is required here. And again, we were already talking about how even accomplishing top 13 is going to be difficult. But for Swexy and Omizi, this is a relatively inexperienced duo. And the scary part to think about is that at their drop, they're going to be contested by Yuumi and Source. And you have to keep in mind, Yuumi and Source, they're already qual to Grand. So that could pose some threats here for Swexy and Omizi's first opportunity to try and qual to their first ever Grand Finals.
Yeah, and a little bit inexperienced as well, as this will be the first time we see them in a weekly final during this major.
Absolutely. So we kind of talked about these duos. I want to once again, let's just keep going deeper down the rabbit hole. Let's talk about their drop spots. Taco, you kind of talked about it. If we start with Swexy and Omizi, this last one we talked about, they're actually landing over on Slappy Shore, going up against Yuumi and Source. How do we expect this to kind of go?
Look, if I'm Yuumi or Source, I am going as aggressively as possible into Swexy and Omizi. I'm defending my drop. I'm not giving these guys an opportunity to look to challenge me in Grands.
Oh yeah, 100%. You definitely want to defend that, but looking a little bit to the west towards where Moo and Bacon will be landing at the Sun Swoon Lagoon. And similar situation, they're going to be going up against a team who is also pretty much guaranteed a grand finals slot. So there's a lot of tension going on in these drop spots so far.
And again, while we're on the topic of contested duos, we're looking at Mud Hut Boy and Chris, who are going to be a little bit more contested here at Shattered Slabs against a Script and Flood. And again, maybe that contest works out in their favor because 44th in week 2, maybe 36 or higher here in week 3.
Okay, so there you go. So all these duos that we've talked about and have highlighted for you, they have a Herculean task, to say the very least. Much is on the line here for them today. So remember, as we're watching these duos go head-to-head, them being eliminated either off-spawn or way too early is going to be very, very bad for the duo, but we continue the ball rolling. My favorite part of these type of shows is actually we get to talk to players. We get to get in their very minds and ask them a couple questions as we prepare for the show. And we have one for you. It is Larson, who is paired up with Peterbot, who will be joining us. Larson, what is going on, man?
What's up?
How you feeling? How does it feel coming into the competition? I know you guys did not get to play together in week number 1. And now you guys are coming into week number 2. You guys, we're kind of contested off spawn. What's the strategy coming into this week?
I can't leak too many strategies, but we got a few things we're ready for, and I'm confident we can do good this finals.
Well, Larson, it's kind of interesting because in week 1, you knew that Peterbot already had a duo. So what was kind of the thought process for you, and what made you really decide that Peterbot had to be your duo for the remaining 2 weeks?
So in week 1, I played with Chimp. We didn't end up qualifying out of opens, so I just like DM'd Peterbot because he wasn't really confident with his teammate Kwani, and then we just ran it up for week 2, and now we're here.
Nice. You know, some things just end up working out. Now that you are duoed up with Peterbot, tell us a little bit about the dynamic, like who's making the calls, how is it playing with Peterbot, stuff like that.
Peterbot is IGLing, and he recently moved to 0 ping, so like we're really crazy together. We pick up a lot of elims together, and like I'm just confident.
Larson, and what is like your like X factor? What's the thing that you're bringing to this duo end of the game that you feel like everyone else around you, they need to be careful of?
You just gotta be careful of me sticking your back tarp, 200 pumping you.
There you go, man. Well, thank you so much for your time, man. We appreciate it. And of course, best of luck at the competition today, man.
Yep, thank you, thank you.
There you go. So Larson duoed up with Peterbot. Once again, they didn't play together week 1. They came together week 2. Had a pretty good week 2. And now in week 3, they just want to make sure they can make the grand finals. For this duo, I mean, do you guys expect them to perform well tonight? Is there anything that could maybe cause them to stumble at all?
Well, I actually really like the fact that Larson went ahead and mentioned Peterbot with the 0 ping, because when you think about the fact that they are going to have a slight contest at their drop spot, because they're landing right in between Hidden Ruin and Kapot Cove, which is part of the jungle biome of the map. And the thing is that he said they're crazy. They can get the elims, and lately in week 2, they proved that if they won the off spawn, then they were looking great for the rest of the game.
Yeah, good point. Of course, they are going to be going up against a different duo this week, right? So maybe some things will have to be, you know, switched up and whatnot. But speaking about how they did last week, like we mentioned, they were contested last week, still ended up doing well enough to pretty much already be qualified for grand finals, and they ended up going 4-2 off spawn. So I'm expecting them, honestly, to have the edge coming into today.
Okay, so this is giving me like mad parallel vibes, okay? Obviously, Peterbot, Larson, they're doing well. But the parallels I'm drawing here are like Muzz and Paper, right? Another duo that they had like a rough beginning. Week 2 came back, they placed 6th. And now they're here again in week 3 rather, trying to make it to grand finals. Let's talk about this duo and maybe expectations for them coming in.
I mean, Muzz alone is such a highly regarded player in the North American scene. Always have to give the friendly shout out to being the Oshi import to the region. But in NA with Paper, I mean, he struggled a little bit to find a duo in the first place for this major, but he's looked as though he's meshed really well with Paper's playstyle. And I think that most importantly of all is that this duo is just constantly being proactive, constantly trying to keep their spatial awareness, and these combat caches, they play such a pivotal part in their flow throughout a match.
Yeah, but even though they're going to go ahead and find the combat caster, they're like, you know what, listen, we're not going to just sit around and wait for the loot to pop out of this thing. Let's go get some Storm Surgeon. And you can see it right here unfolded. They go ahead, they look for a team to get some early shots in. They actually end up getting an elimination, and double that, they find his teammate as well. So 2 eliminations, a lot of Storm Surge, and the fact that we also saw them grab up that cache means that they have plenty of loot to go into the end game as well.
And the endgame is not easy by any means. Both of these players, though, with so much individual experience that when they combine, it's just all about the positioning. Because again, talking about that spatial awareness, this duo does an incredible job in terms of just understanding where their priority rotation should be at. They're always consistent in the fact that they're not trying to just like linger in the more congested areas of a zone. It just seems as though Muzz and Paper in particular, they tend to prioritize making sure they get that Storm Surge early on, so then they can just focus exclusively on their positioning as the mid-game develops.
Yeah, and when you go ahead and get that early Storm Surge, that early loot, right, what can you really do with that advantage? Well, you go to a spot on the map that is very, very good, and in this instance, in 4th zone, they're going to go ahead and take dead center of the Storm. Now, basically what that ends up meaning is that when next zone pops, they're pretty much guaranteed to be within it or very, very close to it. And just like I mentioned, they are in the next 5th zone. But as you can see, they're a little bit south, and all of the other teams on the map are also going to be rotating from the south. So that side will end up being congested. So they're like, you know what? We already have loot. We already have Storm Surge. Let's even rotate further, even though we are already in the zone. And they go ahead and make that rotate right back into the next center of 5th zone. And as you can see here, ends up being a very, very good position for them. And plays like this, right, that experience out of Muzz is why they got 6th place last week, even though they unfortunately didn't even make it out of opens in week 1. So I'm excited to see what they got for week 3.
All right, speaking of week 3, it's almost that time. I'd love to just get quick thoughts on what your guys' expectations coming into today.
I just want to see some pop-offs, and it would be cool for Moo and Bacon as well if they managed to make it to Grants.
You know, listen, I mean, more Yamzo and Rise domination. Maybe we'll see some Acorn and Cold pop-offs. I know that Bucky and Okus, they're looking to make this one of the last times they actually get to practice because for some reason Okus is going on vacation this week. I don't know what that's about. But yeah, we'll have to see how they do as well.
All right, well, it's that time. The competition is ready. The battle bus is ready to go. And of course, your casters, Levin2K and Jacob PR, are as well. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Zeke and our analysts, breaking down and laying the foundation of what we're going to see today. There's teams that already got their spot, but more importantly, it's those teams that we're looking at that still need to punch their ticket to the grand
There's
final.
a lot of pressure on these guys, right? If you're coming into a lobby knowing these 6 games have to be top form from you, like that's a lot of pressure that when you look at some of those names, a lot of them haven't been used to that kind of pressure. A lot of them haven't even ever been to a grand finals, right? And so it's like today is really going to be a special day, not just for them, but for us to watch and see how it all unfolds. I'm very, very excited, Jacob.
No, I'm definitely excited. I like the one name they mentioned, Bucky and Okus, going ahead and making sure that they condition teams for that Rift Island.
Yeah, we know they want to play for it. Every single opportunity they can to take it, they're going to be there. And to be fair, when they've been up there in a lot of these weeks, they've been dominating. I don't think if you're another team in the lobby, you really want to fight those guys. Definitely been one of the better teams in that sense, but they need to be doing more after the fact as well. And that all starts here in game number 1. Let's jump right into the action.
On the NA side of things, we got a little bit of a different play style, and that's what I like to see in Fortnite. No matter what region you look at, they change up the meta just a little bit. And on the NA side, they like to fight, and this is going to be a fight throughout the next 6 games. We talked about the teams that need to play well today in order to qualify, but there's teams that we've talked about that need to condition teams. This is important, vital practice in a finals lobby in which you can't really get anywhere else.
I think the big thing is that as much as there is elements of practice, this is one of the lobbies that is less like practice for Grands when you look at the qualifying weeks, just because of so many teams, so many players are playing with different intentions in mind, right? Not, hey, we need to qualify. It's, hey, we've qualified, let's secure our spot even more. Let's give a tough time for all the teams around us that haven't maybe qualified. And in that sense, it can be a tough lobby to play, just because if you're one of those teams that has to play with the mindset of, hey, let's qualify, how you actually approach the lobby will be different to what you've had to do anywhere else.
This approach from Umeezy and Swexy is a brave one. They still need to earn their spot themselves, and they're one of the teams that need a massive finish in order to make it there. But if they do, they'll create history for themselves. It'll be their first grand finals in which they get to play in, and that's something that is special around the lobby for a lot of teams. But at Slappy Shore, the south side is contested right out of the gates. Yuumi and Source, they know it. They split it, and they completely disengage towards the rest of the map. Meanwhile, towards the north side, Miro and Cooper, smooth sailing to get all the loot they want.
The fight here at Lonely's began.
One side of the map to another, though. This is what we kind of predicted to see very, very early on. The early game skirmishes, players, especially in these contested drops, they don't want to let all of that loot go away for free as Vortex is just trying to break in. Kix is already there, has to be careful. Fusiak is just immediately trying to disengage and move back, but he gets trapped in the attic and taken down.
Really nicely done, forcing the issue with the SMG. Not many things you can do when someone's running at you with that weapon in your face.
Interesting this time around. Typically in the past couple weeks in which we've seen Bugha and Threats, they split this drop, and it is a wide split drop where they can gobble up a lot of the loot, and at times they tend to reach on over towards Kenjutsu's Crossing, but that side of the map, of their loot path, is going to be contested by Pate and Cardi. It's almost a blessing and a curse. You get your loot stolen, but you get an opportunity for early game surge.
Yeah, and they're an example of a team that I really expect to see some wild things from, just because of how much more secure their position is in the series point leaderboard. I think when it comes to Epic and Clix, obviously a lot of expectations built up around these two. But do you think they're going to start delivering on those expectations, Jacob? Do you see these guys as a potential challenger here in NA when it comes grand final time?
For the past couple weeks, I was on the fence, believe it or not, with how well Epic has been on NA, and then Clix as well. But Clix actually decided to change things up. He didn't necessarily stream himself, and I think that gave him and Epic a whole new load of confidence, and I think that is what's going to make the difference, and they could be one of those teams that grabs the 10 spots that are up for grabs this major for grand finals. But Peterbot and Larssen, they haven't yet punched their ticket there, guaranteed, and he's going to have to fight for it here in the early game battle. He's doing a good job of backing off his opponents, even boxing him up. That's Lawrence and Tavern on the other side in their round 2. They won their first game. They got off to a good start, and they're doing the same thing here.
Really tough spot to be in for Peterbot. Just sort of playing around with these edits, trying to find different angles.
Wow.
And these two teams have been fighting each other constantly since both teams have been formed. And it swings in either direction, it seems, at different times. You've even seen some crazy fights between them.
Oh,
and
wow.
we've seen some crazier clutches. Peterbot now looking to pull off another. Peterbot picks up Lawrence and is now looking for the second. Wow. Peterbot.
Okay. I feel like that was revenge. Quanti did a very, very similar thing to them last week, but Peterbot, and that's exactly what you want to have if you're Larssen or if you're any fans of Peterbot in general. We know his potential. We know how mechanically skilled he can be, and he's showing it yet again by taking down both Lawrence and Tavern in a 1v2 situation, and this is something going into the grand finals that you need to continue that momentum.
2 with 40 HP at that. Like, unbelievable scenes there from Peterbot. And that's why he's a player who a lot of us look at and go, look, we want to see this guy competing for the titles in NA. He's done it before. He knows how to win. But he hasn't quite found that winning formula with a teammate for a while.
Sometimes you could be some of the best players in the world and it not work out due to chemistry. Some would say even due to vibes, as Notch just trying to close in on Moo and Bacon. So much to fight here for the low ground. And Bacon's just getting tagged up on the other side. Wavy, Jacob, and Notch doing a good job of just surrounding and hounding, taking down Bacon. Moo is just under pressure, under siege. He's soon to follow. And a great start for both Notch and Wavy, Jacob.
Not the greatest start for Moo there. We know how big of a week has to be for him. We've not really got to watch them much, and it won't be the case here in game 1 either. We're not going to get to watch them. Notch and Wavy Jacob doing great to start off the game.
Everybody around the lobby. No room for mistakes, even in the early portions. And you got Baka and Pars here. Some would think they're probably one of the favorites to grab one of those 10 spots with how well they have been playing recently, from Cash Cups to previous FNCS rounds to even the last major in Major 2. They've been slowly but surely progressing as a team. and particularly individuals as well. They both have so much experience in the international stage as well due to the FNCS Invitational last year. Zesty Nuko. Right out of the gates, they're able to take down Zukis. They're just trying to claim Misty Meadows to themselves, just in case the vault goes in that direction.
I like that. Always like my sneaky beaky plays.
Ritual was actually the guy who took down Larson, Peterbot's teammates early on, forced him into that 1v2 situation, third parting from around the map. Reet and Ritual. I mean, what can you say about this team? They're one of the most aggressive teams in the game. Every time you watch their round 2 performances, they're just destroying the lobby. It's about finding that footing here in a finals lobby, and this is another go around. They have Kanata in their sights, and this is a team that's not afraid to fight and push up and finish that one.
Yeah, but they have so many options to pick from over here, right? This part of the map very, very congested right now. So many different teams all about, and they've done a good job to traverse without having to use or take much damage. So again, like you said, they're never going to shy away from a fight. It's all about picking that right fight, though, and not getting caught out as a result of it.
Slappy Shores as we tune in. We saw this one very, very early on to start the game. Yuumi Source disengage, try to go for a separate loop path, but you can kind of see them in the minimap there, position. Slappy Shores, the nature, build those sky bases, and just kind of look around the map for Surge. Typically, you do have a ton of extra heals, so you don't have to worry about taking too much damage. For Swexy and Omizi with his own pulling out, they're going to have to run into both Source and Yuumi eventually. Rapid and Batman Booga. I'm a huge fan of Batman Booga. Streams most of the competitions on his private channel. He's progressively getting better each time he takes the
I
field.
feel like you're just a fan of any player that used to play on NA West.
You got me red-handed.
It's like if you just happen to
What
play
gave
on
it
NA
away?
West, it's like you're just Jacob's favorite player. Like,
It happens. It happens. But he's a very entertaining, super skilled, and that's something we say about a lot of the players, though. Very, very similar to User in these games, to where you kind of look at him as one of the most mechanically skilled players, but they just need to get a little bit better in the awareness, a little better on the rotations, and every single time I watch him, especially combined with the teammate Rapid, he has been doing just that. Very, very similar to Chris and Mud Hut Boy, to where they need a decent day. They don't need a massive performance on the day. They just need a decent day that they know they're capable of.
yeah, but you know, it's easier said than done at times. I think the big thing for them is making sure they're keeping things simple, right? Not getting in their own heads, playing their game. You see, Chris is very, very aware and alert to the fact that these players are sort of rotating on by. I wonder if he'll even look to engage in a fight. Uni and Source now. The battles for caches all across the map. Reign supreme.
And you can see teams learning the intricacies, the ins and outs, especially towards this portion of the map. Yuumi and Source already boxed up in this position well before the cache was even a thing. Now they have the full advantage. They have all the heals. Fighting against Omizi and Swexy, who are not afraid. They've got to this point by taking on all these challenges. So I don't think this one's going to be any different. The only thing they have to watch out for is they're on the edge of zone with other teams moving in from the north, and then even some position right below them on the south.
It will be worth it though if they can get the loot without taking and investing too much in.
I think either one of these guys is daring enough to make that big peek, but this guy's daring enough, let me tell you that. Epic gets the knock onto one. That's Poyo who goes down. That's a little bit of revenge from last season when Poyo took out both Epic Whale and Reet in 1v2 fashion. But as we tune in as well, Clix is down, Clix is out, so he has a bunch of pressure on his shoulders to not only get him back up, but to continue the performance that they're having.
Yeah, and Epic World just again showing that wealth of experience, even in crunch situations where Crix isn't there to help out. He's going to get the job done.
just waiting as I see Rift Island appear. Prefaced it just a little bit about Bucky, about Ocus, and about a lot of these teams that love to go for that Rift Island. I do think it's an inevitability here in Game 1.
D-Roll and Noxy here. Island fights are one of the things I love to see here in NA, so hopefully we get to see some island fights today. D-Roll and Noxy, not up on the island, but very much so beneath it, trying to capitalize on all the players rotating through this area.
It's really interesting because typically throughout every one of these weeks so far, we've seen Rift Island appear, and almost immediately, whether it's a Rift or a zip line, teams like to engage and be the first one there, build up and claim it as their own. I hear some Rifts going on, and maybe that is going to be the play. A little late to the chase, but better late than never in most cases. As we tune back in Yuumi and Source, Swexy and Omizi, neither one wanting to budge off of this fight. But there's so much for Swexy and Omizi to fight for this season. I'm going to go and throw it over to Miniminer to break some of that down.
Thank you, Jacob. Let's take a little look at two teams here that do actually need a good day to qualify to Grand Finals. We saw Mu going down earlier on. They're being a little bit more aggressive, though. We saw them get 2 eliminations before Mu did end up dropping down, so not the best start for them, considering they do need a decent placement today to clutch up. On the other hand, Sweezy and Omizi, these guys, or Swexy, I should say, and Omizi, these guys need a top 8 to finish, and we can see them being a little bit more passive in their approach. They're getting those Storm Surge tags and playing it a little bit more carefully. Let's see how they do the rest of the day.
Slow and steady wins the race for some. Others like to get fast and aggressive. As Mudhut Boy is going to be the first one on top of Rift Island, claiming it as his own in a daring play because Chris is down. Luckily for him, there is a reboot van on top of the island, but if anybody contest it, that's where you're going to find a lot of those troubles.
This is just not the start to the day, though, that you want to be having, especially when we're talking about how big of a day you need. You want to be heading into 5th and 6th zone with your teammate alive, ideally. Peterborough and Larson also going to be standing in your way is never an ideal spot to be in.
When you see a zone like this, what are some of your must preparations to go through a mega city zone, the potential on top of the mountain right next to it? What would you be telling your teammate as soon as this one pops?
I think the big thing here, right, with this zone is that right now all these players who are on this side, a lot of them looking at rifting, and a lot of them will be making a decision, do we rift, do we mud? As you can see here, right now, with how stacked this lobby is, you know, rifting might not be too bad. Players going to be struggling to really take shots at you out of the sky. Mudhut Boy desperately trying to connect with anything and finding some difficulties. And that was very different to EU yesterday, right? EU yesterday, the games weren't as stacked at this stage. And so if you were to rift any sort of zone, it was almost instantaneous demise. So I think we'll see players chancing it here. When gliding or rifting into a zone, you see a rift pop there again just now. More players jumping in.
I like the way you use the phrasing, chancing it. That's almost like what Mudhut Boy is doing here. Using a lot of his heals, using a lot of his resources, chancing that he's going to get the shots necessary for Storm Surge as the fight on the other side of the map continues, breaks down. Yuumi landing some good damage through the covers, but it's a whole nother team that enter the mix. That's Penta, that's Teeks that are there, and now they're under pressure, getting forced out of the box. Yuumi soars hot on the heels as they clean that one up. All that loot for themselves. Yuumi probably feeling a huge amount of confidence after that one.
Nice. Cool thing is as well is that they should be able to sort of sit in zone a bit longer just to get that brick up before heading in. And they'll probably find a decent spot. But as I say that, the zone pulls towards the southwest, so they will have quite a ways to go to get to zone. We'll see how they traverse it. Mira and Cooper, another one of those teams that maybe will have quite a distance.
Just remember the stat that showed up almost at the start of the game. There's 500 FNCS champions in this lobby. And you can see 5 of them right there on Miro in the distance. They were targeting Bolts, who has another one. But with FNCS champions comes challengers, Aiden and Hound. They're one of the teams that are on the bubble. They still have a chance to get into the grand finals this season, and they almost need the bare minimum to do that. And that's why you see maybe their strategy is to hunker down, get some placement points, and not really risk those early game fights.
I don't know if I'm tripping or not, but I could have sworn I heard you say there's 500 FNCS champions in this lobby. Maybe
Championships.
maybe final. I was like, really? Are they even 500 FNCS champions total? Either way.
Roller and Noxia, another team that needs a big day, Levin. Immediately takes him, boxes him up, brings the loot back. As they try to inch themselves closer in towards Mega City. And this is where what I was kind of talking about. I know I mentioned the hill towards the right of the Mega City. Well, the left isn't